We're live.
Hello. I want to welcome you to the March 3rd monthly meeting of the Housing Opportunity Commission of Montgomery County. Today's meeting, we will be going through a number of items on our agenda. Before the meeting formally starts, I want to address a matter that's just come to my attention. I am responsible for establishing the agenda for the meetings. And as part of that, because we had a very lengthy meeting for today, I made a decision to not do the community forum or to hear from our resident association today. However, in doing that, it still does not preclude anyone from being able to have access to this streaming meeting through YouTube. And you can go onto our website and have access to that information. The agenda was posted on February 26th related to this meeting. So we gave notice pursuant to what the agenda was going to be. The community forum and our resident associations, those voices are very important in terms of the work of the Housing Opportunity Commission. And in regard to that matter, since we are not going to be having those this month, to account for that, I am going to arrange it for next month for our April meeting. We'll provide the opportunity for a longer community forum and provide opportunity for speakers to have perhaps more than a normal 3 minutes in order to be able to accommodate the absence of a meeting forum, community forum for this meeting. So that's what we will do to accommodate that. With that, I simply announce the commissioners who are present. We have Francis Kelleher, who is the vice chair of the commission, Richard Nelson, who is the chair pro tem. We have Commissioner Pamela Bird, Commissioner Linda Kroon, Commissioner Jeffrey Merkowitz, and Commissioner Jackie Simon. So all present, we have a quorum for the meeting so we can commit. The first part of our information exchange this afternoon, will be a report from our executive director. This is an annual thing we do once a year where we get a report from the executive director on HOCs for the year in review. And we're going to provide opportunity for that to be done at this point in time. It'll be followed by the commissioners exchange. So with that, I'll open the meeting and invite you, Mr. Span, to provide to us your report on the HOC's year in review.
Sure. Let me just ask a clarifying question. Thank you, Commissioner Priest and all commissioners. Just clarity, Kristen, are we doing the video here again or no? Just real quick.
No.
Okay, excellent. All right, so with that, I will start. So good afternoon and welcome. For the record, my name is Stacy Span, and I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County. Commissioners, as is my custom each year, my Executive Director's report for this month will serve also as the state of the agency. You all actually, I think, received a bit of a report in the packet, but nonetheless, we'll take an opportunity here to report where we've been and where we intend to go over the next year. And on that note, I want to begin by recognizing our commissioners, Chair Roy Priest, Vice Chair Fran Kelleher, Chair Pro Tem Rick Nelson, and Commissioners Kroon, Bird, Simon, and Merkowitz. I'm truly looking forward to all we will accomplish this year for our agency, our customers, and our community. Additionally, I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to once again congratulate our 2021 Honor Roll and Special Recognition honorees. Just minutes ago, we celebrated our community partners, Bethesda Help, Ms. Ruth Manchester, who's a volunteer, and the African American Health Program. These folks and organizations have turned in outstanding efforts which have impacted thousands of HOC customers and the individuals and families that we're serving every single day. So without their passion and commitment, we simply could not fulfill our mission as well or support our customers at the level they deserve. For that, we thank you. Each year, this address prompts me to re-examine what it means to be a houser. As evidenced by transitioning to a mostly remote work environment, as well as our employees on the front line continuing to answer the call of public service, this past year undoubtedly has redefined the meaning of what it means of houser. The impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic have changed our daily lives and will have lasting impact for years. I'm thankful for our staff and for their perseverance and commitment to serving our customers throughout a most challenging year. They continue to meet the challenges imposed by this pandemic with grace and compassion. And at our core, housers support HOC's mission by focusing on our three pillars: getting people housed, keeping people housed, and helping people reach their fullest potential. In addition to getting people housed, HOC has delivered award-winning and nationally acclaimed services in our community for more than 45 years. In this most challenging time, HOC has worked with Montgomery County, community partners, and other stakeholders to ensure that our waitlist applicants get housed during one of the most economically challenging periods in recent history. Additionally, we've been working hard to ensure that our existing customers avoid eviction, keeping them housed. Further, under the lens of keeping people housed, HOC provides more than housing. Over the past decade, HOC has transformed to address the whole customer in its service delivery. We differentiate ourselves from other housing authorities because of our robust menu of programs. We find our customers represent the full spectrum of need and represent the most marginalized populations in our county. Through our programming, HOC addresses this spectrum of need and meet our customers where they are. HOC staff deliver engaging programs like our financial literacy classes, events and series through HOC Academy, the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, and the list goes on. We were excited to receive our second grant of the federally sponsored Fatherhood Initiative Program in third quarter of 2020. Over the next 5 years, we expect the agency will touch the lives of hundreds of fathers and their families. Recruitment for the first cohort of the Fatherhood Initiative Program second grant begins this month. With that, we're excited to launch the program in a remote environment until we're able to meet in person again. In other exciting news, we're looking forward to continuing youth programs through the HOC Academy this spring and summer. We are again focusing on science, technology, engineering, and math initiatives to encourage youth to explore their interests in these fields. As mentioned earlier, the pandemic has affected the way we conduct our daily business, including providing most of our services and programs remotely. Needless to say, transitioning most of the agency to operate in a remote environment has not been without its challenges. Our IT professionals have provided staff with the technology, software, and other digital resources to continue their important customer-facing services and program activities. And regarding that programming staff, Resident Services has done an exceptional job at maintaining a full schedule of events. In addition to hosting workshops, meeting forums, and other virtual events, HOC staff continues to provide counseling directly to customers. Staff have continued connecting these customers to resources for food, rental assistance, grants, mental health services, and other supports during this pandemic. And this includes in-person food deliveries, although at a distance, and participating in other giving-related activities. COVID-19 has taught us HOC's housing services are not just a safety net, but a shield for our customers. Throughout this pandemic, many of our customers have faced decreases in household income, instances of under and unemployment, absence of internet, and with school-aged children, healthcare issues, and all sorts of other unimaginable woes. HOC has served as a guardrail for many of our customers throughout the pandemic and will continue to do so. And as you all know, the events of this past year have clearly demonstrated that our country is reckoning with several great challenges. Throughout the pandemic, our society has proven yet again that there's a need to intentionally address the social, racial, economic, and civil inequities facing folks like our customers. Civil unrest exacerbated by the pandemic, racial justice movements, and insurrection on our capital, a transition in political parties. These events are demonstrative that our nation continues to heal from mass trauma. Truly, that journey of healing has really just begun. In 2021, HOC will continue to be a champion for affordable housing units and policies that directly and indirectly benefit our stakeholders. We're actively focused on capacity building, as we have been with organizations throughout our community. We will not continue to ride coattails of the momentum built over the past years. Instead, we as an agency will focus on uplifting these issues of equity, in addition to financing, developing, and maintaining affordable housing in our great county. And when it comes to housing, folks, we serve as both as equally a public housing agency, a housing finance agency, and a developer. HOC is empowered to explore and use innovative solutions of our own to address housing inequity. For instance, when acquiring properties for development or existing developments, we are seeking to address the barriers of our customers due to accessibility issues. We often participate in transit-oriented developments and in close proximity to quality public schools and nearby employment opportunities. HOC also considers the issue of accessibility in terms of amenities that may improve the quality of life for our customers. Our mixed income method of development unites social classes within one community where every resident can equitably access safe and stable housing, as well as amenities. These considerations bridge the gap for our customers by providing them with the same opportunities as their more well-to-do neighbors. Over time, we've seen acclaimed success of the mixed income development method. Recently, Maryland State Delegate Vaughn Stewart from the Montgomery County House Delegation saw his legislation HB 1090 before the Economic Matters Committee. HB 1090 supports the development of affordable housing under the mixed income model, which HOC and Montgomery County have championed now for many years. Mixed income developments focus on people and place by equitably housing customers. The place we live can greatly affect us over our lifetime. From our young ages, the home environment can either support or stymie the growth and development of our children. As a senior adult, the home environment can also impact an individual to age in place. And as one ages in place, access to healthcare and other essential resources can impact the ability of the individual to stay home longer. In 2020, we learned how place can represent a new concept to us now, protection from something we cannot see. In this case, the coronavirus, COVID-19, has changed how we work, learn, play, rest, and live. Most of us now spend more time in our homes than ever before. We may live in intergenerational households where we are living with children and grandchildren. Let me tell you, it's been a real experience spending so much quality time this year with my children. What this means, though, is that home is more than where we rest our heads at night. It is, among other things, our workplace, our foundation, our shelter. From the perspective of a staff with over 375 individuals, HOC has had to readdress the ability of most of our staff to work in a remote environment. This included ensuring that staff had access to stable internet connectivity, which powers the services of the agency. This pandemic has proven that it's possible to serve over 30,000 individuals with the hands of 375 staff and a little bit of bandwidth. It's really an interesting time to be a houser. I look forward to positive advances that we're going to make as a community and as a nation. We're hopeful, but cautiously optimistic as our elected officials address the nation's burgeoning housing crisis. We know that in an economic downturn, it's very likely that evictions and foreclosures will rise. And if we hope to continue serving our customers and community as effectively and efficiently as possible, HOC will need to continue its innovation in its service delivery. You know, in your roles as commissioners, that future thinking decisions are vastly important in accounting for other generations. However, we're faced with making some short-term impactful decisions as well, and we'll continue to do our best. This year, HOC will continue to engage its staff, serve our customers with dignity and respect, get people housed, keep them housed, and help them reach their fullest potential. And in our current political environment, housers are in a better position than ever to raise our voice in the national discussion on housing. It's our goal that HOC will be able to participate by addressing our affordable housing crisis in dialogue with local, state, and federal legislatures. We will continue to advocate for sensible solutions to get and keep more of our community housed. Through our programming and service coordination, we will continue to lead by addressing both place and people. In our real estate and development activities, we will continue building and renovating affordable housing communities. And finally, true to our vision, we will continue to get people housed, keep them housed, and help them reach their fullest potential. On behalf of this entire staff, we look forward to an incredible year ahead. Thank you for your time. And at this point, I'd like to address any questions or issues you might have. Thank you.
Stacy, hi everybody. I'm sorry for being late. I just wanted to ask one question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. I just wanted to ask one question about school. Now the school is about to start back in the next couple of weeks. Is the agency giving any type of book bags or pencils or anything, or are you going to wait till August of this coming year to give that out?
We did a back to school drive in the fall. And so although those students, because at that point, we didn't actually know if students were going to go back in person. In fact, you'll recall that there were a number of plans about phased attendance of school in person. So we did our back to school drive then, and then we traditionally do it in the fall. So we would roll it into the fall. My expectation is those supplies that we offered to students during the fall are still available for their use. So we will definitely do one again in the fall.
In the fall. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Stacy, since you just went through the sort of HOC year in review, let me just take a minute to, on behalf, well, I think the commission will personally thank you for your leadership during what's been a really difficult year. And again, to thank the staff. I mean, I think that what we have witnessed in terms of the staff being able to continue to deliver at such a high level and maintain our customers' health and safety and provide for their needs, continue to provide housing, provide more housing, and at the same time, take huge steps to develop more housing has been just phenomenal. And you really do deserve recognition and credit for doing a great job. Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson, I appreciate that. So the accolades are due to the staff, and generally the mistakes are mine. So, we've actually had a few missteps here and there, and I'm appreciative of the team's patience through some of that tumult, as well as you all as commissioners. And it has been an interesting 12 months, to say the least. And it looks like it's going to continue to be. So thank you for your support. I know that we have animated conversation, and I'm actually appreciative of that. It makes us better, and it sharpens our ability to be of service to customers. So thank you all.
Stacy, I know that at the beginning of this year, none of us contemplated COVID and the impacts it would have on service delivery, staffing, and some other things. What have you learned? What lessons have you taken away from that will be incorporated going forward this next year in terms of the way that we do business?
That's an excellent question. And so I'll start with a couple things. The first is that our headquarters buildings, our office buildings are more than the ability than a place for staff to work. In fact, they really are a central place for service provision for persons who, frankly, are under-resourced. And it's important as we look forward into the future for us to ensure that we're able to provide some level of distancing, safely, timely service on site as appropriate under conditions not exactly the same as COVID-19, but in conditions that perhaps will cause us to pivot toward our remote work. That's one. Two, we have to continue to invest in our tech. And I'll tell you, were it not for some of the investments that you all supported, we would not have been able to pivot quickly. And I'll add to that the cyber security component. So there was a time when we thought that was a little less important. So I should amend what I said just a minute ago. I said the investment in tech and security. It should actually be tech and security. And there are a number of housing authorities right now, as a consequence of COVID, as a consequence of the distance, as a consequence of lack of investment, who frankly have had their data sets completely hijacked. They can't do any business. They can't cut any checks. They can't issue any vouchers. They literally can't do anything. And you all have been incredibly understanding, but supportive of that. And what it's done is help us enhance the platform of service for customers. And what this means for us is going forward that we will have the ability to continue mobile application, which means that we can serve folks more timely, and we can serve them in more remote locations around the county. And that's to include literally setting up mobile distribution of supplies, food. Resident Services has done that. We've made considerable strides in our logistics efforts. And here's one of the other things is we don't need as much paper, right? I mean, so because we've got more information and our information network is more firm, our ability to communicate with one another is in fact not only intact, but has been enhanced during COVID. One of the other things I learned is quite frankly, in relationship to you all and how we need to continue to keep you abreast. And this is one that is in fits and starts. There are times when we're really, really good about it. And there are times when we're really, really bad. And you all aren't getting information timely. And so that's one area that we just, I've got to work on over the next year in particular, as we see some of the more tumultuous parts of our economy, and some of the other challenges that customers, no doubt, and our staff are going to see. And then I think what we instituted early on, some emotional well-being supports for the staff. That's something that I think we're going to have to look toward rolling out to customers as well, and partnering with healthcare providers, not simply on physical healthcare issues, but the emotional and psychological components that are so necessary for folks. So that's
Mr. Priest.
Yeah, Commissioner Simon.
I'd also like to call to the attention of people who may be watching and don't know that the staff during this time has been called on to do the work of, in some cases, the federal and state and county governments, as to qualifying people for additional programs that have become available as a result of the COVID dilemma. And so they've not only carried on their own jobs admirably, but they've taken on the work to help others in other agencies by putting the shoulder to the wheel and helping people that are not our clients, perhaps will become our clients, or who have been on our waiting list for some period of time, there have been the additional contacts, and with over 30,000 households on our waiting list, and to take on the responsibilities of the communicating and serving with and assisting these other families that have become so burdened by the economic consequences of COVID. I just think it's extraordinary. And I think that it really, people need to understand that we play hard, we work hard, and our staff is always first in line to offer to help. And I think that's admirable. So,
Mr. Priest,
Yes,
I'd like to ask Mr. Spahn, I know that one of the things that has been slowed down by COVID, but surprisingly and fortunately not stopped, is construction. At some point, either not necessarily today, but in the near future, could you give us all an update on how the pandemic has affected schedules for various capital construction projects that we're involved in?
Absolutely. I can give you the community by community specificity, but overall, what we've seen is that general contractors and others continue to push forward, obviously taking care when necessary to quarantine and take other safety measures, other health safety measures. But I think largely we have a few things lagging a bit, but there are also spaces where folks have taken the opportunity to really catch up as well. So happy to provide a community by community breakdown.
That'd be great. I figured it was a little bit erratic, just as you described. And so having that kind of an update would be very helpful. I'm not sure if we have any buildings opening soon that can help with getting more people housed, or, you know, if that's something still months away, but
Few months away, but you know, we got some things that are moving ahead quite nicely. So
okay, we'll look forward to that.
Now, I just want to be clear: we don't have 30,000 units available, but remember that is the region's work as well. so we are but a part of that.
Right.
in
Thank you.
line with Commissioner Simon's comment, it should be worth noting that HOC and staff work with the county staff to administer and design and administer the rental assistance program, which was a very important to support not only residents who live in our properties, but residents throughout the county, to assure that they have some rental assistance. And so that's really important to make attention to. Are there other questions from commissioners? Well, I want to thank you for the report, Mr. Spann, and as Commissioner Nelson noted, I think we all appreciate the significant work that was done by the staff under your direction to fill in a very unprecedented time in our community. I mean, none of us knew what to anticipate, but I think the response that we saw from HOC was very illustrative of the quality of work that we have come used to in terms of working with the HOC staff. So I want to thank you, and please express our support for the staff and let them know that when you do good work, more work is expected. So
Pretty sure they're well aware, but thank you.
We've now come to part of the agenda for the commission exchange. As we get into this discussion, let me just make a note, two things. One is that we just ended in a few days Black History Month, and this month we are into Women's History Month. So two very important constituencies in our communities that will be honored during this month of March. But I want to take the liberty, if I could, to pay attention to and raise up the name of Vernon Jordan, who was a stalwart in our national stage and community. was instrumental not only in civil rights, but in corporate boardroom evolutions in terms of change and opportunity. And he just expired on March the 1st, and there'll certainly be the proper acclamations and tributes that will be made for him. But I think it is worth noting that he has passed away. And, you know, we've lost a lot of really great leaders this year, from John Lewis and Elijah Cummings, and you can name one after the other. But we have to make sure that our communities are continuing to build that quality of leadership going forward to guide and direct us, just as he was able to do going forward in the future. So I just want to pay a note, a tribute to Vernon Jordan. The other commissioner exchange matters. If there are none, we will advance the agenda. The next item on our agenda are the approval of the minutes of February the 3rd, approval of the minutes of February the 3rd closed session, approval of the minutes of February 19th special session, and the approval of minutes of February 19th closed session. Is there action?
I move approval of the minutes you've just enumerated, February 3rd, regular session, February 3rd closed session, February 19th special session, and February 19th closed session.
We
Second.
have a second. It's been probably moved and seconded that we approve stated minutes. Are there any questions? All those in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposers, nay. Nay. So ordered.
And I think it should be noted that a change was made from the original draft of those minutes, which I think has been posted to the website for those who read these things.
Thank you. The next item is a special session ratification of the approval to complete the acquisition of real property located in Chevy Chase, Maryland.
So move.
Who moved it?
I
Commissioner
second.
Simon.
Commissioner Kroon made the motion to approve.
To second.
Commissioner Simon
Oh, okay.
moved.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Simons and seconded by Commissioner Kroon.
Commissioner Kroon, second.
Yes. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. So ordered. The next item on our agenda are committee reports and recommendations. The first committee reports come from our Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee. It is chaired by Commissioner Nelson.
Okay, the first item under the bfna committee report is the second quarter budget to actual statements for FY 2021. And that conversation will begin with Cornelia Kent, who will introduce the staff to give the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson, and good afternoon, everyone. As Commissioner Nelson mentioned, the first item is our fiscal year second quarter budget to actual statements. And Tomi Adebo, our Assistant Budget Officer, will go ahead and walk us through the statements.
Thank you, Cornelia. Good afternoon, Commissioners. The agency ended the quarter with a net cash flow surplus of $2,110,749, which resulted in a positive variance of approximately $1 million. Several of the unrestricted opportunity. Yes.
We can barely hear you.
I apologize. If everyone's okay, I'm just going to restate my previous statement to make sure it's on the record. The agency ended the quarter with a net cash flow surplus of $2,110,749, which resulted in a positive variance of approximately $1 million. Several of our unrestricted opportunity housing properties exceeded budget due to timing delays of establishing bad debt allowances in some of our unrestricted properties, coupled with savings and expenses. There was a small amount of expenses for the public housing program at Emory Grove for communication costs and solid waste tax. The voucher program experienced a higher administrative surplus through December, a result of higher than anticipated administrative fee income and a positive variance in administrative expenses. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at this time. Thank you.
The only action required in this area is to accept the budget to actual statements. I would move resolution number 21-23.
I second it.
And I'd also make the statement, while there is a positive variance, and your second bullet point talks about the unrestricted properties exceeding budget expectations as a result of time and delay with the bad debt allowances. The question I think that we all have is the anticipation that we have in terms of the budget at the end of the year and how well we have anticipated the rental shortfalls that we will see during the course of the year. I know we've talked about it, we planned for it, but it would be helpful to just sort of capsulize a little bit what our thinking is on that.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Go ahead. I'll jump
No,
in.
I was just going to say that the next item is the budget amendment for the year, which will highlight a little bit more what our, anticipated shortfall will be for the
Okay,
year.
well, we can cover that then. Okay.
Okay.
We got a motion. You have a second?
Yes, there was a motion and a second.
Seconded by Kelleher.
Yes.
Any questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 So ordered. So approval of resolution 2123. I'd like to, before we move on, I'd like to note that the special session ratification, we didn't specify the resolution number there in the approval, which was resolution 21-22R. So please note that in the minutes. Next item.
The next item is, in fact, as Cornelia mentioned, the FY 2021 second quarter budget amendment. The staff is seeking approval of said amendment.
Thank you again, Commissioner Nelson. And for this item, Terry Fowler, our budget officer, is going to walk us through.
Thank you, Cornelia. Good afternoon, commissioners. The second quarter budget amendment was the result of a reforecast that staff prepared in January to do exactly what Commissioner Nelson said, to look at what we had anticipated the impacts of COVID would be and what we were experiencing. Our adopted budget included an impact through the first quarter of FY 21. The second quarter budget amendment is including impacts of COVID through year end. It also includes a reduction in county funding resulting from the FY 21 county savings plan. Our original budget assumed a $2.9 million impact on our rental income. The budget amendment increases that impact by $2.7 million. The timing of the impact is seen on our statements when the allowance is set for rents that we have not received. As a result of the second quarter budget amendment, our FY 21 budget has an additional shortfall of $818,000, and we are recommending that the anticipated draw from the general fund operating reserve to balance the agency budget be increased by the $818,652 to a total of $1,047,443 to maintain a balanced budget. And I would be happy to address any questions you may have on the budget amendment.
And it should also be noted that the reserve has been established by HOC for just these kinds of circumstances, when in fact during the course of the year we see some operational issues that cause a significant change, then we have a reserve fund from which we can draw monies to make up for that shortfall, which will still leave us whole at the end of the year. Is that not correct, Terry?
Yes,
Or-
sir.
Yes.
It is correct, Commissioner. Obviously, at some point we'll have to go about the business of rebuilding the reserve, as you well know. And you know, we're not optimistic about what the sort of next 6 to 12 months look like as a consequence of COVID-19. We're not optimistic at all, but we recognize that the reserve exists for this reason. We're going to be doing every single thing we can to manage it, but Terry and Cornelia and team have been on top of this from the very beginning. So,
Well, while I know that there are a lot of things that folks have to do with it, I would hope that some of our clients who are behind will recognize that some of the monies that they might get from this anticipated new bill that's going to give them a couple $1,000s apiece, some of those funds can be used to pay back or pay some of this rent so that we won't see significant further decreases.
And
Yes.
can I just for my own clarification, just trying to understand, like, so what's included in some of these numbers and whether there's anything that's not, like, so, you know, we're talking about rent shortfalls. Does that include tenants who are protected by the eviction moratorium right now? Or
yes, they're protected by the moratorium, but that isn't, I mean, that's separate and apart from actual receipt of rent, right? So
no, and that's what I was just trying to understand, to make sure that there wasn't some separate accounting for those.
It's a great question, Commissioner Merkowitz, because the act around moratoria is about, the intent there is to keep folks housed so that we don't have these incredible spikes as a consequence of transients, but also, you know, so that folks aren't causing other health challenges for themselves and for broader communities. But with regard to, you know, payment, you know, we are reaching out as aggressively as we can, and as you might imagine, when customers are having some customers are having these challenges, they don't, you know, folks don't want to talk about that. You know, they're trying to figure out how they're going to get through the next week's months, and so we understand, but we have an obligation to reach out and try to establish a payment arrangement, or better understand the situation, so that we might even provide other assistance with regard to food insecurity, health needs, et cetera. And so we're going to continue to do that. We, of course, we're abiding by a self-imposed eviction moratorium prior to the ones issued by the federal government, the state, or the county. So we certainly believe in keeping people housed, but admittedly, this is going to be a fiscal challenge for us, and one that, quite frankly, we're going to be reeling from for a few years, at least.
Right. Yeah. No. And you know, I want to be clear. You know, one of the things as the newest member of the HOC commission, as the newest commissioner, I guess, you know, and only being here during the pandemic, you know, echoing some of the earlier comments, I've been very impressed just at how well, you know, the staff, you, Stacy, and the staff have adjusted to this and are working to support the tenants. And you mentioned some of the services that are being provided, and the commitment to keeping them housed during all of this. At the same time, while working to, protect the fiscal safety and soundness of the HOC itself, so that it can continue to serve as a houser. I guess, the question I was getting at was just whether there's some hidden cost that's coming down the line because, if we haven't written off expenses or rent that, would be that from folks who are behind, but still housed because of the eviction moratorium. Is there some other expense that, we're not seeing reflected in these numbers, or has that been built in?
Sure. So we're obviously, you all see this quarterly. You see the write-off. So we're tracking the arrearage. There's nothing that we haven't built into the number. The unforeseen costs around unit turnover should someone decide to separate from us or are separated from us from the housing units. Look, when folks are in duress, it's hard to tell how that's going to land. And so, my estimation, given the sort of 24/7 living in domiciles, which is also new, is that cost, where it would have been relatively modest before, or might have been modest, will be significant. And so, that's not a capital cost in most cases, right? While it's cosmetic, it's not without real fiscal implications for us. So there's no way we can capture that. I don't have a good sense of it, but it's going to be a big number.
May I ask if any of our residents have been threatened, our voucher holders have been threatened with eviction? We read in the paper that a lot of people in other jurisdictions have been continuing to be attempted to be pushed out by landlords, not necessarily voucher landlords, but landlords in general. And I'm just wondering whether we have seen a spike or any increase in that issue at this time.
Well, so first off, I should start by saying we are, in fact, also a voucher landlord, although a small one relative to the rest of the grant. We as the landlord are not causing said intimidation. We're treating those customers the same way as we are in units where there are not voucher supports. We don't have an accurate reporting measure for said sort of intimidation, but there is some indication, anecdotal and otherwise, indication that in fact some voucher holders are facing heightened activity. And so I'll leave it broad there because I don't want to categorize it as a threat. We don't have enough evidence to call it a threat, but there's certainly activity around it. And so, yeah, there's definitely activity around it.
Well, I hope that we would do everything possible to intervene should specific cases come to our attention.
Certainly, but look, part of the innovation here, and this is, when we use innovation, it's such an affirming word, but part of the effort for us around policing and curbing this activity will be our relationship with landlords. And that's sort of a go forward thing. Once we have confirmed that there are issues and But we have very little. It's a tri-party set of agreements, right? We have with regard to the lease and the lessor and the lessee, we have very little interaction in that direct relationship. So as I said, there's not a good reporting mechanism. The resources that we would need to root it out are extraordinary. And unfortunately, it's one where, we come to it late and the action for our landlord partner involved in something that is untoward is also, it's late activity and will be forward. We don't have any, we can't find folks. We don't, so it's challenging.
So Stacy, if in fact one of our residents is not able to pay their rent, do HOC still give the landlord their part of the rent money? I'm talking about the part that HUD pays. Does the landlord still get that, or if the resident don't pay, do HOC pay it for them? I'm just asking the question. Do HOC pay it for them and then they reimburse HOC?
So we are not able to pay the customer's portion of the rent. No. Now, in the case where there's been an interim certification done for a voucher and there's been income loss or a change in income, then the housing assistance payment component would in many cases increase. I can't say in every case because there are some where it might not, and there are reasons why. And so it is conceivable that during a time where there's a lull or reduction in income or a loss of income, that HOC's portion of the payment would increase. But that's if all the steps are followed appropriately. And let me just give a quick bit of acknowledgement here to Lynn and her team because they're processing these very, very quickly and doing yeoman's work in making sure that folks stay housed. So where we can do it, we're doing it. But we do not pay the tenant's portion of the rent. We cannot take on that. I mean, we just would not be able to serve many folks at all in that instance. And once we started it, we would never be able to roll it back.
But the landlord still gets paid.
The landlord still gets paid his or her portion of the housing assistance payment from HOC. Now, for all customers who are listening, I have to encourage you, reach out to your landlord. It's got to be, first of all, I sympathize. It's got to be one of the most awkward things to do. But you want to take an opportunity to enter into a payment arrangement and an active communication about what's happening and what life issue you're facing, so that that is part of the relationship, the conversation. It's well known, and it also helps protect you. If in fact that's something that you are uncomfortable doing, then my suggestion is that you reach out to our resident services team so that we can try and be helpful to you. The county Department of Housing and Community Affairs also has a landlord tenant affairs team who can be instrumental in helping you as well. The efforts to keep you housed and certainly to help you and your family continue to live in dignity and with the support that you deserve. So I want to emphasize that part of it. And Commissioner Crum, does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
No problem.
You get a motion to approve resolution 2124.
I move approval of resolution 21-24.
I second it.
It's been probably moving second to approve resolution 21-24. Are there any questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? So ordered. Unanimous.
Thank you.
On the, following the same trend of conversation, the next item is uncollectible tenant account receivables and the write-off of same. Again, Cornelia will introduce the staff to give us a report on that.
Again, thank you, Commissioner Nelson. And Eugenia Pascal, our controller, is going to go ahead and walk us through this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Eugenia Pascal, Controller. It is the agency's current policy to provide an allowance for tenant accounts receivable outstanding for over 90 days. On a quarterly basis, the staff also recommends to the Commission the write-off of uncollected receivables from past tenants. The proposed write-offs for the second quarter of fiscal year 2021, which covers October to December 2020, amounts to $49,684. This total includes $45,974 unpaid receivables from the Opportunity Housing properties, largely from former tenants at BPC2 Corporation and State Rental Partnership, $3,070 from the RAD properties, and $640 from Supportive Housing Program. The primary reasons for the write-offs include tenants who skipped or voluntarily left their units, some left due to a job transfer or purchased a home, some tenants transferred within the program or ported out of the Montgomery County, and 4 tenants who passed away. The next write-off will be for the third quarter of fiscal year 21, which will cover January 1 to March 31, 21. The staff recommends to the full commission the authorization to write off the uncollectible accounts receivable balance of $49,684. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee informally reviewed the proposed write-off at the February 23, 21 meeting. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
If there are no questions, I would move approval of resolution 21-25.
So
I
moved.
It has been
I
moved
second it.
and seconded to approve resolution 21-25. Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed is nay. Ordered. Unanimously approved 21-25.
The next item is a series of requests by the staff to renew
Michael,
property management contracts for Forest Oak Towers, Alexander House, Georgian Court, Stewart Town Home, Cider Mill Apartments, Green Hills Apartments, Westwood Tower, and Metro Point Apartments. And I believe Millicent Angelin is going to lead this discussion.
Yes. Hello, my name is Millicent Anglin, and I'm an asset manager in the Property Management Department. I'm requesting that the Commission approve renewing the property management contracts for Forest Oak Towers, Alexander House, Georgian Court, Stewart Town Homes, Cider Mill Apartments, Green Hills Apartment, Westwood Tower, Metro Point Apartments for 1 year through June 30th, 2022. This request was informally reviewed by the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee during the February meeting. Do you have any questions?
The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed the request for each one of these properties and has concurred with the staff in forwarding the recommendation to the full commission. So I would move approval of resolution 21-26.
I second it.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-26. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed is
Aye.
nay. So ordered. I would note that this resolution and the consolidation of 8 properties into one action essentially makes it more efficient and for us as commissioners than having to review each of these individually. And so we've done the due diligence of reviewing each one of these in terms of the standards for renewal of the contract. So I want to commend the chair, Mr. Nelson, for having worked with the staff to arrange this approach to going forward in the future, these kinds of approvals. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
The next item is Development Finance Committee, chaired by Jackie Simon.
Our first item to come before us this evening is a Department of Health and Mental Hygiene grant approval to sell 3 units from HOCs for the renovation and adaptive reuse for operation by Jubilee Association of Maryland, and for approval to prepay the existing MPDU 1 mortgage using funds from the PNC Bank line of credit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Kayreen Brown, Deputy Executive Director. And as Commissioner Simon pointed out, we're requesting a few actions related to a special needs solution, housing solution in concert with the Jubilee Association of Maryland. And Jay Shepard, recently promoted Housing Acquisitions Manager in the Real Estate Development Group, will walk you through this item and we'll take your questions. Jay, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Kayreen. And hi everybody. Thank you, Kayreen. Can you hear me okay, actually?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, I am Jay Shepard, Housing Acquisition Manager for HOC. We cover in the packet item related to the Jubilee Housing and MPU 64 program. In December 2013, HOC, in partnership with Jubilee Association of Maryland, accepted a grant award of $835,000 from the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to acquire and renovate at least 2 homes for adults living with developmental disabilities, with final obligation of the funds required before those funds sunset on June 30th, 2021, or later in a couple months this year. And currently there are $768,728 in unspent that do not include the additional matching funds from the Montgomery County Department of Housing and Community Affairs, DHCA, that remain eligible for additional acquisitions and renovation under that FY14 grant. Staff have identified 3 HOC-owned townhouse units in the Chadburn Place subdivision of Montgomery Village that can be acquired by a to-be-created wholly owned special purpose entity and subsequently renovated to suit the needs for at least 3 low-income special need adults to be operated by Jubilee. And in order for HOC to sell the Chadburn units to this special purpose entity, all the debt and insurance obligations must be resolved, including prepayment of the outstanding mortgages. And further, in order for the special purpose entity to acquire the Chadburn units, HOC must secure interim funding until the fiscal year grant and DHCA matching funds are received. So staff proposes a draw on the $60 million PNC line of credit for an amount up to $1.4 million. And this amount will be used to fund repayment of the outstanding mortgages against the MPDU 64 program. And 2, it covers the costs related to the renovation, the permit fees, and the construction administration expenses associated with adaptively renovating and getting them ready for adaptive reuse. Funds from the line are not required for the acquisitions as the DHMH funds those purchases directly. However, once the funds are received, a draw on the line of credit for the mortgages. Approximately $309,000 roughly will be left on the line after all the reimbursements are completed. And staff is proposing the MPDU 64 program pay back that line from net operating income that would have otherwise serviced the mortgages. There are two resolutions for this item, just so you know, Resolution 21-31A and 21-31B. Both are related to this item and are for your consideration. And if you have any questions, please let me know and we'll answer them now. Thank you very much.
Jay, this is Commissioner Byrd. I'm just curious, even in reading the packet, I'm still not clear. Can you just speak to how and why this project came about, please? Thank you.
Sure. So we've actually done this before with Jubilee. We've started under a memorandum of understanding with Jubilee starting as early as 2010. We were recipients of grants from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and using those funds, we went about acquiring homes. This latest fund from FY14 had provided the funds, and the period of time in between here, we actually used a portion of it to acquire but then we had unspent funds, and those unspent funds were going to be transferred to another entity who had approached HOC back in 2016, 17, in that time frame, and they had interest in pursuing this program. So we had worked with them for almost 3 years to see if we could transfer those funds to them, but unfortunately that didn't work out. And so now we're in a position where we'd like to obviously continue the program to spend those funds before the funds revert back to the state. So so we've had a long history with it, and it's a great program. We've really put a lot into this, and everybody's benefited. But that's the reason for the delay here in not using the funds when we did.
If I might add to a little history in that, the federal government arrived at a decision some time ago, about the time this program was started, to separate the service provision from the landlord, so that a resident who was having a tenant problem did not have his service program interrupted, or vice versa. And that was the very reason for this. And so now an organization like HOC, serving as the landlord and bringing the professional management and operation to the property, and then the service organization is free to provide the level of service without mixing the two and jeopardizing either. And that has seemed to work very well, particularly for us here in Montgomery County. And it is a model that is mandated by federal law at this point.
Okay, so we will still own the properties, but they will be managed by Jubilee. Is that we'll still manage everything and be responsible for any issues or concerns with those properties? Is that how it works? Okay, I see Jay nodding yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
As a landlord, we would continue to operate them just as we would a landlord entity. However, Jubilee does find the tenants and matches them to the location with their social service needs that they need. And so they are really the social service provider part of the equation.
Okay, thank you.
The committee reviewed this and recommends to the commission, full commission, its approval.
I was going to move approval.
Yeah,
let me just clarify that Jay said resolution 2131. Oh, never mind. A, and then separately we'll do B. Did you have something, Jeff?
Yeah, I had a few questions still, and some I think have been partly answered, but I did find some of the briefing a little bit confusing. I ended up watching the YouTube version of the development committee, so that actually was helpful in answering some of my questions. But to build a little bit on what Commissioner Byrd was asking, in terms of the timing of this, or wondering why it took so long for us to use these funds. So I understand we were in some agreement with, or we were trying to do a deal with Rosaria. When did they withdraw their claim to the funds, or their desire to use the funds?
So yeah, they actually withdrew twice. The first time was in 2018, but then they reestablished interest after that, and then as late as early last year, they were again looking at it, thinking they could make it work, and by about this time last year, they formally decided they couldn't make it work for them.
Okay, all right, that makes a little more sense.
They have a very different sort of model as a landlord, where it's run on a parish system, and it would have been I think a difficult structure in some regards for them to manage that long term.
Okay, no, that's helpful to know. It seems like a very long time to leave those funds unused, and to not take advantage, to the benefit of the customers who would otherwise be served. The other thing I was a little confused about is when we're talking about paying off the outstanding first mortgage debt, is that for all of MPDU 64 or just for these 3 units? Because I guess we're saying that the 3 units are worth $202,000 each. So it's for the entire MPDU 64.
Yes, correct.
Grouping, or is it just for all 3? Okay.
No, it's
I was trying to.
So, yeah, it's a mortgage that covers 64 units. But in order to sell any one of them, you have to pay the entirety of the mortgage. But the mortgage represents 64 units. That's the underlying collateral.
Okay, that makes sense. I was trying to reconcile why we were paying, or why these units were worth $606,000, but we had a mortgage of almost $1 million on them.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. And are those units currently being used, or those are vacant at the moment?
Currently vacant. Okay. Yep. And need some renovation work to them anyway. But they were vacant. Yes.
And just to understand, final question, just to understand. So we're not adding to the stock of affordable housing. What we're doing is dedicating the use of these for a specific population.
Yes,
that
exactly.
Is,
for special
got
needs.
It. Okay,
that's exactly right.
Great.
If I'm not mistaken, the other criteria here is that we make these meet the definition of visitability, which means that a guest who had a mobility impairment would be able to enter the property, visit, use a bathroom facility, and but would not necessarily be able to access the bedroom level, but that a person could visit who had physical limitations.
Yeah, that is exactly right. Part of the reason we actually chose these units was because of the close at grade access that they each have. That allows just for a slight modification to get to really no riser there at the front doorstep. And then once in the unit, that first floor will be fully accessible. The kitchen, the bath, and the little living room that it has. And And so, that's part of the design renovation cost that's really required in these units, because they weren't really structured that way when they were built in 1979. But that's how we're going to.
The bathroom door will need attention.
Yeah.
But like you say, minor compared to what most of our inventory is.
Yeah, exactly.
So back to my motion of moving to approve resolution 2131A, which is approval to sell the 3 units from the HOC mortgage from the portfolio.
Commissioner Byrd, I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 2131A. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay.
Aye.
So ordered.
And I would then move approval of resolution 2131B, which is a draw on the PNC Bank to prepay the mortgage on the 64 units.
Commissioner Byrd, I second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-31B. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay.
Aye.
So ordered. Next item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item before the commission is related to Stewart Town Homes in Gaithersburg. And its staff is seeking authorization to select CREA LLC as a tax credit investor and authorization for the executive director to negotiate and execute an operating agreement.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Simon. And for this item, I'll turn it to Gil Cavalazzi, who will lead the discussion. Go ahead, Gil.
Thank you, Karen. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gil Cavalazzi, Real Estate Division, and this item is related to our upcoming resyndication of Stewart Town Homes apartment and renovation. As you may remember, we presented the final development plan for this transaction in November, December. And at that time, we stated that the previous investor that the commission had approved in March of last year had imposed some senior debt per unit limits on the transaction. And we were exploring and soliciting proposals with the agreement of the previous investor, Boston Capital, of some additional proposals for tax credit equity investment. And so we obtained 2 offers for the transaction from R4 Capital and from CREA LLC. The price difference between the two, CREA offered 92 cents per dollar of equity and R4 offered 88 cents per dollar of equity. The other terms, paying timing and the rest were very comparable. So our decision and recommendation is based on the price difference. Those 4 cents of price difference result in about $450,000 additional equity from CREA's proposal compared to R4. So our request is to approve the selection of CREA as the new syndicator for the transaction and to authorize the executive director to negotiate and enter into an operating agreement. The rest of the general terms and of the transaction remain the same as we presented in the final development plan. We plan to close the transaction in the beginning of June and start renovation soon after. Our plan is to complete the renovation in the final quarter of calendar year 22 and convert the financing to permanent in the first or second quarter of the following year, year 23, calendar year 23. And with that, I think that concludes the summary, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Did you say, this is Commissioner Chrome, did you say that you would start in June? Did I hear that right?
Yes, if everything stays on schedule, we plan to close the transaction in June, and once we close, we will be ready to start. May take a couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks for the GC to mobilize and get on site and start the renovation, but it should be starting early this summer.
And the residents that are in Stewart Town, they have already been told?
They know that we had a RAD conversion voucher conversion a couple of years ago when we first informed them of the upcoming renovation, and the property management has been in communication with them. More specifically, we also plan to have very soon in March meetings with tenants and collect some additional information about their preferences for temporary relocation, but they are aware that it's coming up.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I understand one thing about the how a lower price is more beneficial for us. Am I understanding correctly that it's the type of debt that we would have to take on with the original LIHTC deal is more costly than the type of debt that we can take on with this deal? Or how is it that this is a better deal at a lower price?
So it allows us to increase the senior debt on the transaction and therefore reduce the seller note amount. So that's one direct benefit that results in about $3 million.
And that senior debt is less costly than the seller note would be?
It's less costly, and it also allows HOC to realize its equity in the transaction rather than fund it through a seller note at a higher amount. But the more directly to respond to your price difference, even though CREA's price of 92 cents is lower than what we had before from Boston Capital, this 92-cent price is based on a 4% fixed applicable rate, which is the result of the legislation at the end of last year, and their price at the previous applicable percentages, non-fixed percentages, was actually higher, but because they price these transactions on the yield to the investors that they provide, when the amount of equity goes up, their price is normally adjusted down. So their adjusted price for the 4% transaction is 92 cents. The Boston Capital's price was not based on the 4% fixed rate. It was based on a floating rate. And so if we had asked Boston Capital to reprice it based on 4% fixed rate, their price would probably also come down from 96 to at least a few cents lower. So even though if you look at it directly, there's a pricing difference, there are differences in terms of that pricing that explain that.
Right. Okay. So no, that's helpful. I mean, because I understood that even with the floating price, that when it came down, it would still be a higher price than what we're getting now. But I'm hearing what you're saying about our equity and the senior debt, so
right,
making up for that cost.
Yes, more than making up, significantly more.
A motion to approve resolution 21-32.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-32. Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying
no more
aye.
questions. Just to congratulate the staff on. I know they had been talking about looking for a better LIHTC deal for a while on this one, and so congratulations on finding one.
Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed is nay. Unanimously approved. Next item.
So this next item is related to Stewartown as well. And we're asking the commission to approve amendment to the finance plan, which has resulted from the change in the tax credit and investor. And at the same time, we're asking approval to amend the bond authorizing resolution. And Victoria Dixon of the Mortgage Finance Group will lead the discussion. Please go ahead, Victoria.
So as mentioned, we are.
Can you speak up a little bit? We can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yes.
So I'm presenting the amended finance plan. Previously, the commission approved the final finance plan totaling an estimated $38.1 million for this transaction, including the tax-exempt construction to perm mortgage loan backed by FHA risk share to be funded by the issuance of short and long-term tax exempt bonds up to 16 million. We've now, real estate staff has now presented the revised development plan. And so this amended plan serves to recognize the new LIHTC investor need for a new bridge loan of up to 4.6 million with a resulting need to increase the volume cap and bond authorizing resolution by 500,000. Terms of the previous LIHTC investor limited our mortgage loan to a maximum of 11.7 million or $125,000 per unit. With the new LIHTC investor, we can underwrite for a higher mortgage loan, which will be sized to maintain a 115 debt service coverage ratio in the rising interest rate environment. Due to the revisions of scheduled availability of sources, we project the needs for up to 4.6 million bridge financing until repaid from receipt of LIHTC equity installments. We will also need to fund an adequate bond debt reserve equal to 6 months of debt service. And so combined, the volume cap and private activity bonds required for Stewarttown are projected to exceed the existing allocation. Therefore, with support of the Development and Finance Committee, we recommend the Commission approve amendment of the finance plan to recognize the change in LIHTC investor, approve funding of the bridge loan of up to 4.6 million from taxable draws on the PNC Bank real estate line of credit, increase our volume cap allocation and bond authorizing resolution by the 500,000 to a revised 16.5 million total, and amend the bond authorizing resolution to correct some little names in the write-up. Are there any questions?
Can I get a motion relative to the Stewarttown amendment of the financing plan?
Commissioner Byrd, I move. Commissioner Byrd, I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-33A. Can we get a motion relative to that? Are we going to approve these separately? As we did earlier. So we will get a motion to approve resolution 21-33A.
So moved, Commissioner Byrd.
Seconded, Commissioner Kelleher.
Probably moving and second to approve resolution 21-33A. Any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Approved unanimously. Okay, a motion to approve resolution 21-33B.
So moved.
I second Commissioner Croom.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered unanimously. Resolution 21-33C.
So moved, Commissioner Byrd.
I second.
Probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-33C. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. Thank you very much. That concludes the business of the Development and Finance Committee, and also, in fact, ends the agenda for the regular open meeting of the Commission. Pursuant to Section 3-305B and D of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, I move to adopt the written closing statement dated March the 3rd, 2021, to adjourn this open session to a closed session to discuss 3 topics. The first topic is the acquisition of real property located in Clarksburg, Maryland. This topic is being discussed in closed session to protect HOC's bargaining power. Public discussion of this topic could result in HOC obtaining less favorable terms or an HOC not being able to acquire the property. The statutory exception that allows this topic to be discussed in closed session is Section 3-305B3. The second topic is the discussion of confidential commercial and financial information related to the acquisition of 2 pieces of real property. The first property is located in Clarksburg, Maryland. The second property is located in Silver Spring, Maryland. The Maryland Public Information Act prevents disclosure of confidential commercial and financial information obtained from third parties. This meeting must be closed to the public in order to protect the confidential financial and commercial information provided to HOC from private development partners. The information to be discussed is treated as private by the development partners and has been given to HOC under an assurance of privacy. The statutory exception that allows this topic to be discussed in closed session is Section 3-305B13. The third topic is a discussion of confidential commercial and financial information related to selecting PNC Bank for banking services. The Maryland Public Information Act prevents disclosure of confidential commercial and financial information obtained from third parties. The meeting must be closed in order to protect such information provided to HOC from connection with PNC's provision of future services to HOC. The statutory exception that allows this topic to be discussed in closed section is Section 3-305B13. If any member of the public wishes to object to the closed meeting, please comment in the YouTube chat box or contact HOC's General Counsel. Instructions can be found in the State of Emergency Open Meeting Procedures, which is posted on the HOC's website. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved. I second. Commissioner Crum.
It has been properly moved and second to adjourn the meeting. Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I want to be clear that this closes our open meeting, but we do have special development corporation meetings that we have to undertake at this time. The first one is the Alexander House Development Corporation. I would call together the meeting for the Alexander Housing Development Corporation for the approval to renew the property management contract with Alexander House Development Corporation. As you know, in an earlier action, we approved several property management contracts, and this requires the corporation to approve the acceptance of those contracts. So that'll be covered by motion 21-001AH. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move approval of resolution 21-001AH.
I'll second it.
Moved and second to approve resolution 21-001AH for Alexander House. Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. So ordered. We will now call for the adjournment of the Alexander House Development Corporation. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting of the
So
Alexander?
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting for the Alexander House Development Corporation. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. I now call to order the meeting of the Brookside Glen Development Corporation for the purpose of approving the property management contract for Brookside Glen Development Corporation.
I move approval of resolution 21-001B as in boy G.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-001B and G. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay.
Aye.
So ordered by unanimously. I now call for a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Brookside Glen Development Corporation.
So moved.
Commissioner Byrd, I second.
Been probably moved and second to adjourn the meeting of Brookside Glen Development Corporation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. I now call to order the meeting of the Glenmount Crossing Development Corporation to approve the property management contract for Glenmount Crossing Development Corporation.
I move approval of resolution 21-001G as in Glenmont C.
Commissioner Byrd, I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-001 GC. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
So ordered. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Glenmont Crossing Development Corporation.
Commissioner Byrd, so moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting of the Glenmont Crossing Development Corporation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. So ordered. I now call to order the meeting of the Glenmont Westerly Development Corporation.
I move approval of resolution 21-001 GW, renewing property management contract with Glenmont Westerly.
Second.
Crone, I second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve the property management contract for the Greenmount Westerly Development Corporation 21-001 GW. Those in, please signify by saying aye. Those who approve.
Aye.
Aye.
Non-approval, please. So ordered. I now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Glenmont Westerly Development Corporation.
Commissioner Byrd, so moved.
I second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve the adjournment of the Glenmont Westerly Development Corporation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. I now call to order the West Wheaton Metro Development Corporation for the approval of the management contract for Wheaton Metro Development Corporation.
Move approval of resolution 21-001 WM.
I second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we approve resolution 21-001 WM. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. I now entertain a motion to adjourn the Wheaton Metro Development Corporation meeting.
So moved, Commissioner Crone.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting of the Wheaton Metro Development Corporation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed,
Aye.
nay. So ordered. I now call to order the Diamond Square Development Corporation meeting for the approval of the property management contract for Diamond Square.
I move approval of resolution 21-001 D as in Dave, Diamond S.
I second.
It is properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-001 DS. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. So ordered. We will now proceed to go into, into closed session. Do we have to adjourn this meeting? For
The Diamond Square.
Square
Do we?
Development Corporation? Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Diamond Square Development Corporation?
So moved. Commissioner Byrd.
I second.
It's been probably moving in second to adjourn the meeting of the Diamond Square Development Corporation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Hey,
Opposed,
hey,
nay.
Roy, I think for future benefit, and you check with Asha, I think as chair, you can just say, since there's no further business, the meeting's adjourned without having to go through the formal motion. I believe Robert's rules allows that, but we can check with Asha.
There's no further business. We will now go into closed
Fran.
session.
And we have to disconnect from this, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all very
Okay.
much.